So I'm going to talk today about mix buses. We're going to go into some detail about mix buses and go into some detail about routing. We'll talk a little bit about the bus matrix page and a little bit about the MXQ app, which you can run on your phone, which just allows everyone to edit their headphone mixes, and its impact on X32 Edit. Everything is on X32 Edit really as far as this goes. The X32 Rack, which I'm using, has 16 mix buses, which you can see they're underneath the main left-right mix bus and the mono center bus. So vocals left and right, you can see them there. Drums left and right, bass left and right, guitar 1 left and right, guitar 2 left and right, keyboards left and right, and they've all got that chain icon, which means that when you adjust one side, you're also adjusting the other side. So they're stereo buses. Effects 1, Effects 2, Effects 3, Effects 4, they're not stereo buses, so they don't have those chains between them. So they can be sent to individually. There are 12 outputs. I'm counting 1 to 6 matrix outputs and 1 to 6 auxiliary outputs, but I'm not counting 7 and 8 because 7 and 8 are dedicated to the left-right main mix, or I'm going to dedicate them to the left-right main mix. So that's exactly what they're going to be. So 1 to 6 on auxiliaries, 5 and 6 are repeated on phonos, so unbalanced phonos outputs. But 1 to 6 are also on balanced jack outputs, and outputs 1 to 6 of the matrix are on XLR, so they're balanced outputs as well. You can choose to place any of the buses on the faders. So here we've got the vocal bus, so we can see the vocals, and then we'll see the drums, and you see that's different entirely from the vocal bus. And then we've got the bass bus, which is different, and you can just select that by clicking on it on the right, and then we choose the guitar 1 bus, and then we've got the effects 1, and you can see only the bass is being sent to effects 1 bus. And then effects 3, the vocals, the recorded vocals are being sent to the effects 3 bus. So I'm going to show you the main left-right bus, but I'm also going to show you the omnidirectional microphone, which is just an omni mic that we've set up right in the center of the band so that the band can hear each other saying anything in our headphones, but it doesn't feed the main output of the desk. It only feeds the headphone buses. So it's the Omni microphone on channel 16, which is an omnidirectional phantom powered microphone. You will hear that on the main left-right bus if I turn it up. But then the solos you won't hear on the main left-right bus, you'll only hear them on the control room bus. So the control room outputs you will hear the solos on, but you won't hear the solos on the main left-right bus. Okay? So I'm just going to shut up and let you hear this. This is the omnidirectional microphone, and if I turn it up, so now can you hear me? That's very good, okay, and if I mute it,
this hit that ice cold, Michelle fight for that white gold. This one
so you can't hear any of the solos. The vocal bus has completely separate mix from the main left-right bus. So that's the different buses that you can place on the faders. You can name color stereo pair of buses on the bus matrix screen, not on this screen. So I'll talk about that later in this presentation, but you can't do it on this screen. We need to route the mix buses to the outputs of the X32 Rack. This is where the routing tab comes in, and we can find the routing tab just at the very top on the right of the page. You'll see the routing tab there. Okay, so if we go to the routing tab and press that, then you'll see a lot of different connections that you can route to. So you can route to the inputs, so the XLR inputs on the back of the desk don't have to go to the channels, they could go to somewhere else. So if you want to route the inputs to the channels, you have to choose that. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. This is us clicking on the Inputs tab. So these are the inputs on the back of the X32 Rack, inputs 1 to 16. Each of them has phantom power on the bottom left. It can be individually switched on or off. If it's on, the LED will turn red, light up red. If it's off, the LED is unlit, which is what it is just now. These XLRs can take both microphone inputs, but they can also take line level inputs. I've set up 1 to 16 on the back of the desk to feed channels 1 to 16 on the desk. Okay, so the source would be the local 1 to 16, which is the local inputs, and I haven't got anything plugged in from 17 to 32 because there's nothing plugged in there. There's nothing to connect there. What I've done then is I've just used 17 to 32, so its outputs 1 to 16 are on channels 17 to 32 on the USB card. The grayed out ones, card 1 to 32, they're only available when you choose play mode rather than record mode. I'm always going to be in record mode. Just ignore them for the moment. This is the AES50 tab on the back of the X32 Rack. They can handle a lot of signals. I mean, 48 each AES50. So that's A and B. That's 96 channels in total that they can handle. So each of them can handle 48 channels. I'm not using them at the moment, so I haven't really bothered to route them to anything. At the moment, 1 to 16 are routed to AES50A and B, and 1 to 32, and Ultranet signals 1 to 16 are routed to AES50A and B, 33 to 48. So there's a lot of things that have been routed there, but I'm not using anything because I haven't been able to afford anything to plug into that, so I'm not doing anything with them. This is the card routing tab. So the X32 Rack came with a 32 channel USB audio interface card pre-installed. That card, as I said before, card 1 to 16 are inputting on channels 17 to 32. The local inputs 1 to 16 are sending to card outputs 1 to 16, but the card outputs 1 to 8, 1 to 16 are also sending to outputs 17 to 32, and that doesn't make much sense. So I'm just going to change that. So now local channels 17 to 32 are being output to the card on 17 to 32. I'm not really using the card as an output at this point, so it doesn't make much difference, but it'll make some difference to some of you using this. The XLR outputs on the back of the X32 Rack, well, they are at the moment, I've chosen to route the outputs to the outputs. So the outputs 1 to 8 are being sent out of outputs 1 to 8. That kind of seems like a bit of duplication. It's sort of, you can route anything to those outputs. So you could choose that you were going to send the card 1 to 8 to the outputs 1 to 8 if you wanted to. This has an impact on the next tab that you're going to work on, which is the outputs 1 to 16. So on this X32 Rack, I've set it up to send mix buses 9 to 14 to matrix outputs 1 to 6. 9 to 14 are outputting matrix outputs, so guitar 2 left, guitar 2 right, keys left and right, and then effects 1 and effects 2. And then I've got the main left and right going out of the 7 and 8 outputs. And then I've got the direct outputs from the effects going to the outputs of 9, 10, 11, 12. These aren't routed to anything, so they aren't on any outputs that we've got on the back of the desk or anything that's connected to the X32 Rack. They're just going to appear as internal outputs, so they'll appear as channels on the outputs. So I'm using 7 and 8 to feed the left-right mix of the musicians to the PA. So the left is going to the left PA speaker and the right is going to the right PA speaker. And I've also told the mixer to route the direct outputs of the 4 effect units to virtual outputs 9 to 16 because they don't actually appear as real outputs on the desk. In the routing tab, there's a thing called output delay, and you can delay each of the 16 outputs. You could decide to do this if one of the outputs is feeding a speaker, say, that's on the front of house mix position, but the front of house mix position maybe is several hundred meters in front of the stage. So you want to time delay your speaker, which is close to you, to the same as the speakers that are just outputting from the PA and from the backline. So don't forget to turn on the delta T at the top of the output. If you do that, then you'll hear the delay, but if you don't do that, you won't hear the delay even though you've set it up. I've talked about a little bit about this. Speed of sound is approximately 343 meters per second. So if you're 343 meters away from the desk, then it will be 1 second before the sound arrives to you. Okay. The aux outputs, well, I've set the aux outputs. These are the physical aux outputs on the back of the X32 rack. I've set them up so that the aux outputs take vocals, drums and bass. In the screen grab, you can see I've sent mix buses 1 to 6 to auxiliary outputs 1 to 6. So that's kind of what I've set it up to. I've also sent the main left-right outputs to the AES EBU left and right outputs, but I'm not using the AES EBU outputs, so that's redundant. Ultranet, well, when you're using personal monitoring P16s, which give you all the signals so a person can set up their headphones just as they want to, P16s cost about £300 or £400 each. I haven't bought them because we don't have the budget for them, but it will affect the Ultranet routing all the same. If we press the bus matrix tab at the left of the screen, which is on the left, so we'll just see it just there, it's highlighted, the bus matrix screen, then we'll get to a different screen, so everything changes. So now we've got the bus matrix, which just shows individual buses and the individual matrix outputs. So the 1 to 16 buses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matrix outputs that I've defined, and it allows you to alter all the bus levels. This is where you can name and colour a bus and stereo pair a bus as well. So in this page you're able to do all the things that I've done in terms of the mix buses. You can turn up or down any bus. So we're listening to the keyboards. You can see it's on the right as well.
This hit that ice cold, Michelle fight for that white coat. This one for the hood girls, some good girls, street masterpieces, styling. I'm wildin', I'm living it up in the city.
So turning up or down any bus won't affect anything but the bus that we're listening to, which happens to be the keyboard bus at the moment. You can use the MXQ app on your phone to alter a bus level. Now I'm just going to show two screen grabs here, which are the MXQ app on the bottom and the X32 app at the top, and just show how one affects the other. So you could see the MXQ app. We turned down the main fader for the keyboards bus, headphone bus. That turned down the main output for the keyboards bus. So we saw that on the X32 application, and we saw it in the MXQ app on our phone. You can use the MXQ app to alter how individual instruments feed your headphones as well as general levels. So if I just use the MXQ app on the mixer tab at the top of the screen, then I can choose to edit, and I'm going to focus on Ben's vocals because they're very obvious, so you can hear the lead vocalist being turned up or turned down.
This hit that ice cold, Michelle fight for that girls, some good girls, street masterpieces. I'm living it up in the city.
Okay, so you could hear how an individual instrument can be altered on the keyboards bus. We're just listening to the keyboards bus at the moment. That's what we're listening to. You can use the tabs along the top to choose an overview or zoom in to the selected channel. It's next time I'll talk a lot about the zooming in and the individual channels, what you can get to by just using the tabs at the top of the screen. For just now, that's great. Thank you very much.